Earth 2149, also known as the universe of Marvel Zombies. It's probably the most popular dark universe in Marvel Comics, and definitely one of Marvel's most gruesome and horrifying ones. Basically, in this universe, Earth's greatest heroes and villains have been turned into zombies. So there's a zombie apocalypse, but with a terrifying twist. These undead superheroes retain their intelligence, powers, and memories, making them far deadlier than your usual zombies, which makes it not just a survival story. The nightmare begins when a zombified version of the Sentry crashes into Earth 2149, carrying a highly contagious virus that instantly turns its victims into flesh-eating monsters. The infection spreads at an unstoppable rate, converting superheroes, villains, and civilians alike into mindless predators. Like I mentioned, these infected heroes retain their intelligence, personalities, and memories, but their hunger is all-consuming, making them uncontrollable, remorseless killers. Within a matter of days, the entire Earth falls to the undead. Spider-Man devours his family, Mary Jane and Aunt May, the Avengers turn on humanity, and Captain America is killed when the Red Skull rips out his exposed brain. The X-Mansion becomes one of the last safe havens, but not for long. Wolverine is infected and turns on his own team, using his claws to tear into his former allies for food. And the Fantastic Four quickly fall, with Reed Richards deliberately infecting his own team, believing that the virus represents the next step in human evolution. Unlike traditional zombies, these undead do not rot or decay, making them nearly immortal unless completely destroyed. The infected heroes consume nearly all life on Earth within days, leaving nothing but a barren wasteland. Then Galactus arrives, sensing the planet's destruction. However, instead of consuming Earth, he is overpowered and eaten by the zombified superheroes, and by consuming Galactus, the zombies absorb his power cosmic, transforming into beings with unimaginable strength, flight, and cosmic abilities. Now they are no longer confined to Earth as they set their sight on devouring the entire universe. The comic book series of Marvel Zombies was so successful that it spawned multiple sequels, including Marvel Zombies 2, as the zombies continue their conquest of the universe, Marvel Zombies Return, a new twist on the formula, featuring time travel and multiversal chaos, and Marvel Zombies Supreme, a take on what happens when the Squadron Supreme is infected, and it even inspired the What If Disney Plus episode and a Disney Plus series. In short, the Marvel Zombies universe is not that complicated to explain. It's basically everything you know and love about Marvel, but in a zombie apocalypse setting, a universal zombie apocalypse. Earth 61112. It is the nightmare version of Marvel where Ultron finally wins, completely, totally, and without any last-second miracle or backup plan from the heroes. In this future, Ultron returns to Earth stronger than ever, and instead of being stopped early like in most timelines, he actually overruns the entire planet. Humanity doesn't get time to adapt, build resistance movements, or form underground armies. Ultron spreads like a plague that upgrades itself every second, and Earth becomes a machine-controlled wasteland almost instantly. Ultron uses vision as his bridge to the past, giving himself a massive advantage in information, timing, and strategy, because he can see what happened and what will happen. The heroes can surprise him. Every trap they set, every ambush they try, every team they assemble, Ultron already knows it before they even think about it. That's what makes this timeline uniquely terrifying. He doesn't just fight harder, he fights smarter than every human mind combined. Most heroes are killed, civilians wiped out, and entire cities reduced to machine territory. The last scraps of surviving superhumans flee all the way to the Savage Land, one of the only places still untouched because it's too primitive for Ultron to care about at first. But even the temporary escape doesn't matter when a group of survivors tries to time travel and stop Ultron from his future vantage point. They are ambushed immediately and destroyed before they even get a chance to fight. The future is sealed. Ultron already counted for every possible resistance. The hopelessness of this Earth doesn't come from chaos or destruction alone, it comes from the idea that no hero was ever capable of beating Ultron in this timeline. There wasn't a gadget or spell that saved everyone last minute. Ultron simply becomes unstoppable and the world ends in pure machine domination. Wolverine eventually tries to undo this future by going back in time and killing Hank Pym before he can create Ultron, which just proves how desperate this Earth became. The only way to fix the future was to prevent the inventor from ever existing as a creator. But that desperate fix creates another doomed timeline where Morgan Le Fay takes over instead. So messing with time is not always a clean solution. Anyway, in this Earth there's no emotional victory, no belief that humanity can survive anything. This is a universe where the worst fear, AI replacing humanity permanently, actually happens. Earth 807128, also known as the universe of Old Man Logan. In this universe, the world has been conquered by supervillains and heroes are either dead or in hiding. and an older, broken Wolverine navigates this lawless wasteland, haunted by one of the most horrific tragedies in Marvel history. What's Old Man Logan? It's a gritty post-apocalyptic western where Logan, once a fierce warrior, has sworn never to pop his claws again. So what happened was that in this universe, the villains banded together for the first time and executed a coordinated attack against Earth's heroes. The Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, all slaughtered in a single night. The world fell into darkness, divided into territories. There's Hulkland, ruled by the Hulk gang. Bruce Banner has become a twisted inbred warlord, ruling with his monstrous offspring. There's also the Kingdom of the Kingpin. After killing Magneto, a new Kingpin took over what was once Vegas. Doom's Lair, Doctor Doom rules over a medieval-style kingdom, and the President's Land, ruled by Red Skull, now the President of the United States. In this lawless wasteland, the remaining survivors live in fear, with no heroes left to protect them. Among them is Logan, who has abandoned his identity as Wolverine, choosing to live in peace no matter the cost. But peace is never truly an option for someone like him. Logan, now an old man, lives on a farm with his wife and children, struggling to survive under the tyranny of the Hulk gang. Logan was once one of the world's deadliest heroes, so why did he give up fighting? Well, on the night the villains attacked, Mysterio used his illusions to trick Logan into believing he was fighting a horde of supervillains inside the X-Mansion. So Logan slaughtered them all, only to realize he had just murdered the X-Men, and the weight of his actions broke him completely and vowed never to fight again. Hawkeye, now an old blind man, offers him a job, escorts him across the country to deliver a mysterious package. Needing money to pay off the Hulk gang, Logan agrees. And in their journey, Logan and Hawkeye encounter a Venom T-Rex, Doom's Kingdom, a brutal dictatorship where Logan barely escapes alive, and Kingpin's arena. And this is just a sneak peek into this universe. Eventually, Logan learns that the package Hawkeye was delivering was not a weapon, but a failed rebellion against Red Skull. The President's forces ambush them, killing Hawkeye, leaving Logan alone once again, and captured by the Red Skull. But something inside him snaps. For the first time in 50 years, Logan lets the Wolverine out again. He brutally murders Red Skull using Captain America's shield, and fights his way out of the President's palace. Returning home, Logan is too late. The whole gang has slaughtered his family, and with nothing left to lose, Logan embraces the beast inside him and goes on a rampage, killing every last member of the whole gang. And he ends with Bruce Banner himself. Logan rips him apart from the inside, ensuring that the Hulk's reign is over. And with his family avenged and his past finally confronted, Logan takes up his claws once more, setting out to restore justice to the wasteland. This universe, especially Old Man Logan, became instantly a fan-favorite version of Wolverine, and the popularity of this story led to multiple sequels and spin-offs, including Old Man Logan in 2015, where this version of Logan ends up in the main Marvel universe, and it even influenced the 2017 film Logan. Earth 9200. In this timeline, the world suffered a devastating nuclear war that wiped out almost everyone. Civilians, governments, heroes, villains, nearly the entire Marvel population is erased in a few terrible flashes. The planet is left poisoned, radioactive and dying, a world where all that's left is whatever survives, the fallout by chance or by mutation. The Hulk survives, but not because he was prepared or lucky. He survives because AIM captured him and locked him inside a bunker during the event. By the time he escapes, the world he once knew is gone forever. The age of superheroes ended in silence and radioactive ash, society collapsed, and what remains is a twisted, ruined landscape where humans live scattered, mutated, and broken. There are no nations, no Avengers, no real civilization, just scraps of people trying to stay alive. When Hulk eventually emerges into this destroyed Earth, he discovers a new ruler, Hercules, who renamed himself the Maestro and ruled the last surviving city, Dystopia. Even in the ashes of civilization, power still corrupts. Herc becomes a tyrant who holds onto control through force and fear, treating the survivors like subjects, serving his ego. Hulk eventually kills Hercules and takes the Maestro name for himself. And this is the moment Bruce Banner finally becomes the villain everyone feared he could turn into if the world pushed him too far. As Maestro, Hulk rules with cruelty, manipulation, strength, and absolute authority. But he doesn't rule a thrived world, he rules a tomb. He becomes the king of a wasteland, not because it feels good, but because there is nothing else left to be. Maestro doesn't just control people, he controls the last fragments of what used to be the human race. The tragic part is that Bruce wasn't corrupted. The world simply broke him. When everyone else died, he became the last unstoppable force standing, and that isolation twisted his mind. The Maestro is the result of surviving past every loss, every war, every friend, every ideal, until only power and pride remain. He becomes the final product of a world where everything meaningful was destroyed. Earth 11080. In this universe, a deadly virus transforms nearly all of humanity into mindless, cannibalistic monsters. Unlike Marvel zombies where the infected retain their intelligence, this world is filled with feral, uncontrollable predators. At the center of this chaos stands Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, the last uninfected human, waging an endless war against a world that has already been lost. And that's the story of the Marvel Universe versus the Punisher. The apocalypse began with a mistake made by Frank Castle himself. Acting on a tip, Castle ambushed the Red Mafia, believing they were smuggling a suitcase nuke into New York. But the shipment contained vials of Survivor 118, a chemical designed to help humans adapt to contaminated environments by allowing them to consume anything to survive. During the gunfight, the vial broke, releasing the virus into New York's water supply. Castle, unknowingly exposed, became immune but suffered from illness for days. Meanwhile, the virus spread across the world, infecting people before symptoms even appeared. The first known case of infection occurred during a battle between Spider-Man and Rhino. As they fought, their struggle led them into a hockey stadium, where in full view of the crowd, Spider-Man succumbed to his hunger and devoured Rhino on live television. The Fantastic Four managed to capture him and assembled a team of top scientists, including Reed Richards, Hank Pym, Black Panther, and Beast, to investigate the virus. And they found that Spider-Man's DNA had been completely rewritten, turning him into a predatory, primitive version of himself. And his transformation marked the true beginning of the end. As New York fell into chaos, reports surfaced of more disturbing incidents, and as the years passed, Manhattan was claimed by Spider-Man, now called Patient Zero, while other infected factions carved out their own territories. However, a new force emerged, the King of Death, a cunning and ruthless infected who systematically destroyed rival tribes to unite the infected under his rule. With the King of Death preparing to invade Manhattan, Spider-Man sent Venom to beg Punisher for help. Frank, at first refusing, was ultimately convinced by a priest and a young boy, two of the last survivors. So with Deadpool, Black Widow, and Scorpion at his side, Punisher stormed the King of Death's lair, and he was captured and tortured but managed to escape when Deadpool caused a distraction. Freeing himself, Punisher executed the King of Death, leaving his faction leaderless. And despite keeping his side of the deal, the Punisher shot Spider-Man in the head, refusing to let Patient Zero walk free. He then sent the remaining survivors away by boat, ensuring their safety, while continuing his war alone. In the years that followed, the Punisher became the last uninfected man in New York City. He waged a relentless war against the infected, impaling the heads of his victims on pikes outside his base. And even with Manhattan now nearly empty, the Punisher refused to stop fighting, proving that his war was never about winning, only about making sure no monster was left alive. And the story of the Marvel Universe versus the Punisher is pure bleak brutality, and the Punisher being a badass. Earth's 16th End. The Ultimate Universe started as Marvel's bold, modern reimagining of superheroes, but over time, it slowly twisted into one of the darkest alternate realities they ever made. In the beginning, it was grounded, realistic, and more what-if Marvel heroes happened in the real world today. But the deeper it went, the more it became a universe defined by tragedy, shock deaths, political corruption, horror mutation, and the collapse of hope. Instead of heroes inspiring society, the Ultimate Universe showed a world where power constantly escalated into chaos, paranoia, and violent escalation. A lot of characters in this world ended up being darker versions of themselves. Peter Parker dying young, Hulk being insanely unstable and dangerous, Wolverine and Magneto acting with way more brutality, and Nick Fury running Black Ops like a Cold War god. Events like Ultimatum pushed it over the edge. Hundreds of heroes were killed just for the shock value and spectacle. The deaths weren't symbolic or meaningful, they were blunt and ugly. The world basically got traumatized beyond recovery. And the most important symbol of how far this universe fell is the Maker, Ultimate Reed Richards. Instead of becoming the idealistic, hopeful scientist from Earth 616, Reed in this world transforms into a cold, terrifying futurist villain who believes only he is smart enough to control destiny. He becomes emotionless, logical to a sociopathic level, and treats evolution like a puzzle he should force the universe to solve. The Maker eventually becomes such a massive threat that he starts influencing and invading other worlds. He becomes a multiversal architect of chaos, and he's part of what leads this universe into being destroyed in the lead up to Secret Wars. And this is why the Ultimate Universe is considered one of Marvel's worst alternate timelines, in a cosmic sense. It slowly self-rotted from the inside until morality couldn't survive anymore. Nobody won. Heroes didn't rise above. Humanity didn't get smarter or kinder. The Maker represents the final outcome of this universe. And yet there's hints that there's between Scarlet Witch and her brother Quicksilver. That's all I can say. Earth H11, also known as the Days of the Future Past universe. It's one of Marvel's most iconic and tragic dystopian futures, where mutants are hunted, enslaved and exterminated by Sentinels. This bleak nightmarish reality showcases a world where the X-Men failed, leading to the complete downfall of mutant kind. In Earth H11, the US has fallen under control of the Sentinels, massive mutant hunting robots originally created to protect humanity from mutants. However, they ultimately turned against all of humanity, taking full control of North America. The timeline diverged from the main Marvel universe when Senator Robert Kelly, Moira McTaggart, and Charles Xavier were assassinated by the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, led by Mystique. Their deaths triggered an anti-mutant panic, leading to the government approving the Sentinel program. However, the Sentinels evolved beyond human control, declaring that mutants, and eventually all superpowered beings, were threats to the world. The result? A totalitarian nightmare where mutants are slaughtered or imprisoned in concentration camps, branded with M tattoos to mark them as mutants, and hunted by Sentinels who dominate the world's governments. By the time the story begins, most of the X-Men are dead, and only a few resistance fighters remain. In this hopeless future, the few remaining X-Men fight a losing battle against the Sentinels. Among them, Old Man Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Franklin Richards, Rachel Summers, and Kate Pryde, the last hope to prevent this future. Realizing that the only way to save the future is to prevent the Sentinels' takeover, the X-Men devise a plan. Rachel Summers uses her psychic powers to send Kate Pryde conscious back in time into her younger self's body. Kate wakes up in the past, in the body of teenage Kitty Pryde, inside Xavier's Institute, and she must warn the past X-Men about the assassination of Senator Kelly and stop the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants before it's too late. Back in the present, the mainstream Earth 616 timeline, Kate struggles to convince the X-Men that she is from the future. However, they eventually believe her and launch a mission to stop Mystique and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants from killing Senator Kelly. And though the X-Men defeat Mystique's team, it is unclear if the future has truly changed. Meanwhile, in the dystopian future, the last of the mutant resistance is slaughtered by Sentinels, with Wolverine being literally vaporized. And as Kate's consciousness fades away, the story ends ambiguously, leaving the reader unsure if history was truly rewritten or if another dark future awaits. Days of the Future Past helped define the X-Men as tragic heroes fighting for survival in a world that hates them, and inspired multiple adaptations in X-Men the Animated Series that featured a Days of Future Past adaptation and the film X-Men Days of Future Past, and it directly inspired the Age of Apocalypse storyline, also known as the Marvel Ruins universe. This universe is arguably the most horrifying and nihilistic alternate reality in Marvel history, where everything that could go wrong does go wrong. It shows a world where superpowers are not a blessing but a curse. In this reality, the accidents and mutations that created Marvel's greatest heroes and villains led to death, misery, and grotesque deformity. The story of this universe follows Phil Sheldon, a journalist who travels across America to uncover what happened to this world's superheroes. What he finds is a decaying, dystopian nightmare where superpowers have only resulted in horrific mutations, mass killings, and a complete societal collapse. Each major Marvel character meets a horrific, tragic fate. Instead of being a symbol of hope, Steve Rogers was never found frozen in ice. He continued fighting after World War II, only to be labeled a war criminal and executed by the US government. Mutants are seen as abominations, not the next step in evolution, and the US government hunts them down, massacring them in extermination camps. And instead of gaining spider powers, Peter Parker's body rejects the mutation, causing his flesh to rot away. And Bruce Banner's exposure to gamma radiation doesn't turn him into a green powerhouse, it mutates his body into a grotesque, pulsating tumor, forcing him to live in agony until the government puts him down. And there is no Asgard in this world, only a broken man who claims to be the Norse god of thunder. Thor is seen as mentally ill, wandering the streets, rambling about lost glory and battles that never happened. And as of Wolverine, his adamantium poisoned and rots his bones and flesh, leaving him a crippled, dying wreck. And the Fantastic Four, their space mission still happens, but instead of gaining powers, they are horribly disfigured. And the government killed or imprisoned most superpowered beings before they ever had a chance to become heroes. And Nick Fury committed suicide after confessing his involvement in the Avengers' death. And as Phil Sheldon uncovers more of the world's atrocities, he realizes that hope never had a chance to exist in this reality. In the end, Sheldon himself falls victim to the horrors he uncovered. And the final pages reveal that he has been infected with a deadly mutation, and as he succumbs, he realizes that everything is falling apart. The story of Marvel Ruins remains a cult classic among Marvel's darkest stories. Though only 2 issues long, Ruins remains one of the most disturbing alternate realities ever conceived. Earth 10-014. It is one of those futures that feels disturbingly believable because it isn't demons, cosmic gods, or zombies. It's corruptions turning war into a TV genre. In this timeline, Roxxon basically replaces the government. They don't just influence politics, they are the system. Wars aren't fought for survival, ethics, peace, or territory anymore. They are produced like entertainment shows. Battles are designed like content programming, broadcasted live and pushed as the ultimate way to keep the masses busy, distracted and addicted to violence like reality TV on steroids. In this world, soldiers are no longer humans serving nations. They are resources for ratings. They are pawns in a business model. Roxxon controls the media, the narrative, the funding, and the technology, which means they get to decide who fights, who dies, and when a war needs to refresh for audience interest. So basically, war is no longer tragic, it's just content, it's a product. Every kill shot, explosion, dismemberment, and battlefield twist is a spectacle broadcast for profit. And the worst part, people actually consume it like entertainment. Luther Manning and Mike Travers were two normal soldiers caught inside this machine. They didn't get heroic endings, epic arcs, or peaceful retirements. Their remains were harvested. Roxxon used their bodies as raw materials to create something new and more marketable, the cybernetic soldier known as Deadlock. In this timeline, Deadlock isn't born from one person, he is a manufactured figure assembled from the pieces of those two victims. Deadlock becomes the inevitable contradiction. He is built to serve this violent, entertainment economy, but his very existence exposes how sick the system is. He is a symbol of what happens when technology, capitalism, and violence combine with morality. This Earth shows a world where technology evolved, but humanity regressed, where there are advanced machines but no soul in leadership, where everything is optimized except empathy. What's powerful is that Deadlock in this universe isn't just another weapon, he becomes the glitch in the system. He becomes the figure who disrupts Roxxon's perfect cycle. So even inside this controlled future, inside this world shaped by corruptions that treat death like a business model, Deadlock broke free. Deadlock can still push back. So Earth in 014 stands out as one of Marvel's most grounded dystopias. It's not cosmic apocalypse, it's not magic gone wrong, it's humanity corrupting itself winningly. It's a future where war is entertainment, life is disposable, corruptions rule culture, and the only hero possible is someone who literally had to be half dead and rebuilt before he could see how toxic the world had become. That's what makes this timeline so dark. Earth 295, also known as the Age of Apocalypse universe. It's one of Marvel's most iconic alternate universes, where Charles Xavier dies before forming the X-Men, leading to a world ruled by Apocalypse. This dystopian world reimagines the entire X-Men mythos into a war-torn nightmare where mutants are the dominant species, and humanity is on the verge of extinction. Heroes become villains, villains become heroes, and survival is a daily struggle. In Earth 295, a single moment altered history forever. Professor X was killed by his own son Legion before he could ever form the X-Men. And without Xavier to oppose him, Apocalypse saw Earth as ripe for conquest. He rose to power years earlier than in the main timeline, launching a worldwide war against humanity. And by the time the story begins, Apocalypse is already in control. Mutants are the ruling class, and the humans are hunted, enslaved, or exterminated in calling camps. He is supported by his 4 horsemen and several powerful lieutenants, who ensure his vision of generic superiority is realized. And other than Apocalypse, there's Nemesis, his son and most brutal enforcer, responsible for leading human extermination campaigns. There's also Nathaniel Essex, aka Mr. Sinister, a scientist who performs horrific genetic experiments creating twisted, monstrous mutants. Mikhail Rasputin, brother of Colossus, a warlord who oversees much of Apocalypse's army, and Abyss, a sadistic executioner who absorbs his enemies into his void-like body. Without Xavier, Magneto became the leader of the X-Men, and these X-Men are far more brutal than their mainstream counterparts, willing to kill and make sacrifices to end Apocalypse's rule. Key members of the X-Men include Rogue, Magneto's wife, and second-in-command, Wolverine, now known as Weapon X, his one-handed and a hardened warrior without restraint, Jean Grey, Blink, a powerful teleporter rescued and raised by the Resistance, and Nightcrawler, tasked with assassinating Apocalypse's agents. And Mr. Sinister, once one of Apocalypse's most loyal followers, begins secretly plotting against him. He created a clone of Cyclops, Nate Grey, as a possible weapon against Apocalypse. And the greatest hope for undoing this nightmare comes from Bishop, the time-traveling mutant who remembers the original timeline and knows Xavier was meant to live. He convinces Magneto and the X-Men that they must send someone back in time to prevent Xavier's death. In a desperate last stand, the X-Men launch a full-scale assault on Apocalypse's citadel, while Bishop and his allies work to restore history. As the battle rages across the planet, Bishop activates the time travel device, sending himself back to the moment before Xavier's assassination, preventing his death and restoring the original timeline. And to this day, this universe remains one of Marvel's most popular alternate universes and frequently revisited X-Men stories. Many future X-Men arcs, like House of M for example, were influenced by its themes of dystopia, genocide, and war. Earth 13584. It is a very weird, chaotic, and extremely dangerous alternate reality because it wasn't a natural timeline at all. It was artificially created. AIM literally built this pocket universe to experiment, adjust history, and steal knowledge from genius-level minds. It's not a full universe like the main Marvel Earth, it's a limited, contained bubble reality, almost like a giant, live scientific test lab disguised as a world. That instantly gives it a very creepy tone because everything happening inside it is happening for controlled manipulation. In this timeline, Kang's Time Marilyn opened cracks in the natural flow of time, and AIM used those cracks to basically rewrite certain events however they wanted. Because of this manipulation, the world shrinks and collapses inwards slowly. The universe doesn't even go past the solar system. There's no future, no expansion, no deep cosmos, just a shrinking pocket cage that pretends to be a planet. New York City is the only remaining place where humanity still exists in a structured way, but even that last piece of civilization is broken. The heroes who should protect humanity have turned into warlords, fighting over territory like mafia bosses. Spider-Man, Namor, Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, Doctor Strange, and The Thing each control their own little piece of the city, not as saviors, but as violent factions. It's a twisted parody of heroism. The same icons people trust in mainstream Marvel become the reason the world is in ruins here. The Fantastic Four in this universe get hit with a second dose of cosmic radiation, making them even more extreme and unstable than usual. Everything is exaggerated, more dangerous, and pushed further than it should be. AIM wanted to force power growth, force chaos, and force violent outcomes, just to learn, extract, and weaponize what they discovered, and this makes this Earth feel like a gladiator arena designed for scientific data harvesting, not a real functioning world. When the Dark Avengers arrive, they basically become the trigger that exposes how unstable this timeline is. Their arrival accelerates the collapse, the boundaries of this universe begin shrinking extremely fast, passing planets like Neptune and Uranus in hours. It's like reality is collapsing, like paper burning from the edges inward. This collapsing pocket dimension makes the situation even more nightmarish, because there is no possibility of rebuilding anything. The end is literally coded into the design. By the end, the Dark Avengers manage to shut down this AIM nightmare and stop the experiment, and the pocket universe falls back into itself. And everyone who survived it barely remembers it. This Earth is terrifying because it shows how fragile reality becomes when humans try to artificially engineer existence like a playground. Earth 10011, aka the Cancerverse. In this universe, death itself has been defeated, leading to a grotesque, twisted version of existence. Introduced in the Thanos Imperative in 2010, this reality is a cosmic horror nightmare, inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's Eldritch horrors, where the universe is ruled by godlike entities known as the Many Angeled Ones. The Cancerverse is not merely a darker version of our world, it is an abomination, a universe where life itself has metastasized into a nightmarish, never-ending existence of suffering. The heroes of this reality, including a version of the Avengers, known as the Revengers, made a horrific mistake. They worshipped and embraced the Many Angeled Ones. These entities promised eternal life by erasing death itself from existence. However, this gift quickly became a curse, as life began to corrupt and mutate uncontrollably, leading to the cancerous infestation of all living beings. With no death, no end, and no escape, every creature in this universe became a corrupted husk of what they once were, bound in eternal existence. The entire reality became an ever-growing, parasitic organism, constantly expanding, consuming everything in its path. The Revengers grotesquely mutated and devoted themselves to their eldritch gods. The Revengers retained their memories and abilities, but were now fanatic zealots of the Many Angeled Ones, spreading their twisted gospel across the universe. Notable members of the Revengers include Lord Marvel, the Cancerverse's supreme champion, acting as the avatar of the Many Angeled Ones. There's also Iron Man, Hulk, and Thor, and others, all twisted, monstrous versions of their 616 counterparts, obsessed with bringing the gift of undeath to all realities. The Revengers and the Cancerverse armies seek to invade and corrupt other universes, attempting to spread their deathless curse to all reality. They even attempted to invade the main Marvel universe, breaking into real space through the Fault, a massive rip in reality. And the cosmic heroes of 616, including Nova, Star-Lord, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Thanos launched a desperate war to prevent the Cancerverse from consuming all existence. And the most important revelation of this conflict was that the only way to destroy the Cancerverse was to reintroduce death, and the key to doing this is Thanos, the one being in existence who is obsessed with death and truly embraces it. Thanos willingly allowed himself to be captured and brought into the Cancerverse, knowing that his presence would act as a beacon for Lady Death. Thanos begged her to take him, but she refused. However, her mere presence was enough to unravel the Cancerverse. With that returning, the reality began collapsing and its immortal beings began to rot and decay in real time. Lord Marvel and the Revengers were erased, and the Cancerverse collapsed in on itself. Thanos, Star-Lord, and Nova were trapped inside as the universe imploded, seemingly lost forever, though they later escaped. So the Cancerverse was finally destroyed. And to this day, Earth 10-011 is still proof that a universe without death is worse than one with it. And the concept of the many angeled ones continues to loom over the Marvel Multiverse, with hints that they may return in some form. Earth 12-177. It is basically Marvel doing a full Judge Dredd-style dystopia, except it's even sadder when you realize it came from a world-ending biological disaster. In this future, an alien energy wave engulfed Earth in the 21st century, and it made every non-mutant, human, infertile. Humanity didn't go extinct instantly, but it lost the most important biological freedom, the ability to naturally continue the species. So the only way to reproduce was cloning, not families, not parents raising new children, just industrial replication to keep the species alive like a manufacturing process. Over time, the world couldn't handle this collapse, culturally or socially. The concept of nations basically vanished, and society retreated into massive, militarized super cities called Mondo cities. These giant dystopian megastructures became the entire world for survivors, dark, controlled, overcrowded, and hopeless. Life stopped being about growth, creativity, or progress. It became pure maintenance mode. Inside these megacities, order was maintained through a police force known as the Bosses. They were cloned from Avengers DNA and built specifically to keep strict law control and absolute authority. Laws here aren't meant to protect freedom. Laws exist to keep the broken system barely standing. And this makes the moral foundation of this earth extremely bleak. The people in power aren't elected leaders or heroes with moral codes. They are engineered enforcers designed to eliminate problems quickly, not solve root causes. Crime is treated like extermination work, not justice. In a world where humanity has already lost the ability to choose its future, the loss of liberty becomes just another necessary sacrifice, and no one gets a say in any of it. When the Thunderbolts, Dark Avengers end up here, they quickly realize this isn't a place where rebellion makes sense. Even stepping out of line risks immediate death. Boss Cage nearly executes them just for being anomalies, and that's how tightly this system is locked. So in this world, society didn't die, it just classified into a prison system. Humanity didn't get wiped out, it got stripped down, cloned, and locked behind giant walls, patrolled by weaponized justice machines. Also known as Earth X. In this reality, every human on Earth has developed superpowers. But this story is not just about superheroes. It is about the end of superheroes, showing a world where absolute power has reshaped humanity into something unrecognizable. So a mysterious mutation caused by the Terrigen Mist has spread across the planet, granting every human superpowers. But instead of creating a utopia, this transformation has resulted in chaos, societal collapse, and the death of the traditional superhero era. There is no longer a fight for mutant rights, because everyone is now a mutant. The Avengers, Spider-Man, and the Fantastic Four have all either retired, died, or become something else entirely. And superhuman powers have corrupted society, leading to widespread paranoia, war, and loss of identity. Meanwhile, in the background, a cosmic secret about Earth's true nature is slowly revealed, proving that this world was never what it seemed. Captain America, now old and wears a torn American flag as a cape, symbolizing the fall of his ideals. And Spider-Man has retired and become overweight, and his daughter May Parker now carries the burden of his legacy, bonded with the Venom symbiote. And Reed Richards becomes Dr. Doom, and Bruce Banner and the Hulk have physically separated, becoming two distinct beings. And Uatu the Watcher, who has observed Earth for eons, has been blinded and is unable to see the future, so his role as an observer has become meaningless. And the biggest revelation of Earth X is that Earth is not just a planet, it is an egg for a growing celestial. The Celestials have been manipulating Earth's evolution, ensuring that superhumans emerge to protect their unborn child. Every mutation, every power, and every superhero is part of this cosmic life cycle. And without digging into spoilers, this story is about humanity's place in the universe, questioning whether we truly have free will, or if we are just fulfilling a larger cosmic function. And it shows a world where everyone has power, but no one knows what to do with it. Earth 416. In this universe, Kilgrave becomes the president of the United States and stays in power for life. Not because he earned it, not because the country voted for him, but simply because his mind control powers made it possible for anyone to resist him. The entire democratic system becomes a joke, free will becomes optional, and every citizen becomes a puppet living under permanent psychological captivity. Because the Purple Man is in complete control, every hero who could stop him gets either murdered, imprisoned, or expelled from the country. Anyone who threatens his throne is neutralized. This instantly turns America into a massive personal playground where Kilgrave can do anything he wants with zero consequences. He doesn't have to hide his desires, lie, manipulate, or pretend to be moral anymore. He is legally and politically untouchable. This is horrifying because Purple Man's entire character is built on abuse, manipulation, and domination. He's not a villain who wants to save the universe in his own twisted way like Doom or Thanos. Kilgrave is just selfish. He does it because he enjoys seeing people broken. So imagine that personality with the power of a full government, limitless resources, media, military, and no heroic resistance left. That's Earth 460. Even Cap was removed. Kilgrave banishes him through time, accidentally creating Earth 311 in the process, and that says everything. The most moral hero in Marvel, the symbol of freedom and human willpower, was kicked out of the timeline just to avoid the slightest risk of rebellion. So there's no cosmic event, no world-ending disaster, it's one evil man with one gift, controlling an entire superpower nation forever. The world doesn't end with explosions, the world ends slowly, through psychological slavery, disguised as politics. It is a nightmare version of what if a villain actually won quietly. Battleworld. It is one of the most terrifying concepts Marvel ever created because it isn't a single alternate future. It's the corpse pile of the entire destroyed multiverse smashed together into one artificial planet. After the final incursion events, Doom steals the Beyonder's power and uses what's left of every broken universe to construct this patchwork world. Every piece of Battleworld comes from a dead reality, meaning everything here is already the aftermath of failure. On this world, Doom becomes God Emperor Doom. He rewrites laws of physics, destiny, memory, history, everything. And the worst part is that everyone living there thinks it's normal. Doom controls information, memory, religion, and even perception. There are zones ruled by barons under Doom, but Doom is the ultimate law. His will is reality. It's metaphysical oppression. You don't just fear him politically, you fear him existentially, because he literally decides what can and can't exist. Each section of this world is a nightmare pocket universe stuck in a loop. There's a zombie region full of undead heroes. There's a region run by Ultron machines. There are demon sectors, cosmic wastelands, wasteland futures like Old Man Logan, and so on. Battleworld holds every worst case scenario, but instead of being isolated, separate timelines, they are all trapped next to each other like cruel zoo exhibits of tragedy. There is no stable society or hope for rebuilding, just infinite, dead-end hellscapes stitched together. And what makes Battleworld extra disturbing is that there is no escape. You can't leave to another timeline because all timelines are gone. For many characters inside this reality, this is the only world that exists. The concept of a normal universe is removed from memory. This makes the suffering permanent, normalized, and psychologically unbreakable for its inhabitants. Even the heroes who know what happened can't fight this place normally. You can't overthrow a dictator who controls reality like clay. The rebellion isn't a battle. It becomes an abstract, philosophical miracle powered by the last remnants of truth from the destroyed universes. And that's why Battleworld stands among the darkest Marvel worlds ever created. It is the final form of dystopia. Not chaos, not annihilation, but enforced stasis. Nothing grows, nothing evolves, nothing is free. The worst fates from every alternate universe are frozen into a single patchwork world, so Doom can rule eternity as a false god sitting on the bones of infinite dead realities.